Hello, all my global glamazons, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be asking the question, how would I judge RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the World Season 2? This season was iconic. I loved this season of Drag Race so much. I really enjoy this format of all these countries competing against each other. And I feel like we, figured out the ways to deal with the growing pains from UK versus the World 1 and Canada versus the World 1. And hopefully in Global All-Stars, those will all be fully dealt with. And we will, get what ends up being like the heightened, complete version of this format that I think could work super well for Drag Race. But let us just get into this video. The rules to remember, as always, are the season has to be as long as season 2 of RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the World originally was, which is 8 episodes, 7 competitive episodes, and the finale. And the performances and challenges need to be based off of how well someone did or how people would predict they would do. So I'm not just going to put somebody in the top when they were originally in the bottom, or vice versa, unless there is strong fan support for that being the case. The goal, as always, is to act as if I'm the head judge and craft this season however I can imagine to make it as fun and eventful as possible, while also being fair with my judging of the season by combining my own personal tastes and what was shown to us on the show. Before we get into it though, please like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you wish. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. It's helpful to me if you subscribe and like the videos. It's good all around, and it takes a few seconds, so if you would like to, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. In episode 1, we have ourselves the talent show. And this talent show was really good. I feel like, with the exception of Mayhem, sadly, every contestant did a good job or better, I would say so. There are a couple placements I did change up, though. I did end up moving Theresa May, who was originally in the high placement, down to the low placement. I was kind of shocked when Theresa was in the top, because Theresa did end up going first in the talent show, and she did her Welcome to Hell original song number. And I thought it was good when she did it first off. I was like, okay, yeah, Theresa did good. And then everyone else kept going, and then Theresa just kept getting further down my list. And I was like, okay, I think Theresa's my third least favorite. And then when they called out, who was safe and who's in the top and the bottom, I was like, oh, okay. Gothy, Theresa, and Mayhem are the bottom, and Scarlett, La Grande Dame, and Marina are the tops. Ooh boy, was I wrong about that. I don't think Theresa did a bad job. I just feel like in comparison to all of the acts that were above her, they were all more exciting to me. And I felt like some of the dance moves that Theresa did were slightly repetitive of each other, and I just wish the song was good, and I just wish she did more with the movement of it, and, was more out there and flashy with everything. Even though she was pretty flashy to begin with, I just wish the dancing was more interesting and more flashy, personally. So I did decide to put Theresa in the low placement, which means that one of the original safe placements, I did have to move up to a high placement. I chose that to be Kate Minaj. I thought her performance was super impressive. Her doing what is that called? Is it a pommel horse? I'll put it up on screen right now. A pommel horse might be an entirely different gymnastics thing. It probably is. But that thing that she did was iconic. I was gagged. It was jaw to the fucking ground when she did that. I was in awe of it. I don't think it had as much staying power or is as iconic of a performance as Marina's and La Grande Dame, so she did not reach the top 2 for me. But out of all the performances, she was my third favorite for sure. And then, of course, as I kind of already mentioned earlier, since I thought Theresa was the third worst, that does bump Scarlett out of the low placement up to the safe. I even though with the judging of the episode and my perception of, I think Scarlett, I guess, is in the top, or is in the high placement, I don't actually think Scarlett was one of the best of the week. I think Scarlett was probably I think she did better than John Burrs. I would say John Burrs was the lowest safe in my opinion, and then probably Scarlett. And then if we're ranking the other safes, it's probably Arantxa, Tia, and then Hannah being the best safe. That's kind of the way I feel about it. But yeah, the bottom two are going to be the same as they were originally. It's going to be between Gothy Kendall and Mayhem Miller. And actually, let's just talk about Mayhem Miller for just one little second. Oh my god, Mayhem. I was watching it, and when she forgot her words, I was like, no, Mayhem, no, no, Mayhem, no. I was like, how? It's like you can improv it. I was so upset with that. But it's the way that it happened. You can't really change it, can ya? But the top two of Marina Summers and La Grande Dame are going to be lip syncing to Dreamer by Live and Joy. And Marina won this. It's no question in my brain that Marina ended up winning this lip sync. So Marina did choose Mayhem's lipstick, and so did La Grande Dame. So Mayhem is going to go home here, sadly, and we're going to be moving on to episode 2. In episode 2, we had ourselves, I believe it was called the Happy Ending Ball. In the ball, they had to do like a prince look, like a evil queen look, and like a princess look. And in this challenge, I kept the placements mostly the same. There is one big change here. Instead of changing Teresa's placement for the worse, we are changing it for the better. I think Teresa was perfectly safe in this challenge. I actually probably choose my lowest safe, but I think she was safe. I really think she was. I think a lot of the reasoning for her being on the bottom is the whole smoke for her one outfit, the She-Evil Queen. Where she has, one of those smoke canister things that just fogs up the whole studio. And while that is annoying, and you should have thought of that before fucking doing it, and made sure that it wasn't gonna fucking gas out the place, it was kind of iconic to me. I really liked it. I was like, oh my god, that is so smart. And the fucking fog in the air after that is so funny to me. I thought she did a good job. Were there some parts of the outfits that were ill-fitting in little areas? Yeah, for sure. But I don't think her sins were as bad as any of the bottom 3 that I have here sins. Gothy Kendall was safe, and I don't personally understand that. I felt like her looks overall for the ball were just a bit too basic for me. And I just was expecting more. I do think her look that she made herself was really good. I really liked that look. But her other 2 looks, I was like, okay, yeah, and what? I just saw all of her looks and I was like, okay. And that shouldn't be my reaction, With at least with Teresa's looks, I was like, oh, come on, fucking gas out the place. I thought her concepts were interesting, and I thought their gimmicks were the looks that were funny. With Gothy's, I just wasn't living for it, personally. So Gothy Kendall was my second least favorite of the night, so Gothy Kendall is going to be the bottom 2 here. But besides that, every other placement is the same. Hannah Conda was originally low. She is going to stay in the low placement here. The top 2 are going to be La Grande Dame and Kata Minaj. I mean, let's talk about their 2 iconic looks of this episode. Oh my Jesus, those looks were just amazing. Oh my god, La Grande Dame's alien look was just everything. I wanted to pay some special fucking attention to that one. We need more drag like that on RuPaul's Drag Race. We need more alien monster drag. We just need it. Monster drag is so fun. And the fact that, we barely ever see it, and the fact that when somebody does monster drag on Drag Race, you're like, oh my god, monster, what? What? Like fucking Tim Allen Home Improvement sound, what? The fact that that's the noise that I feel like everyone collectively makes when it happens on Drag Race. We need more of it. Give us more of that, please, I beg of you. Marina Summers was high originally. She is going to stay in the high placement here. And yeah, John Burr, Scarlett, and Tia are all going to remain safe. So the top 2 of La Grande Dame and Kata Minaj are going to be lip-syncing to Every Time We Touch by Cascada. And La Grande Dame won this. She was so, 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 so funny. in this lip sync. I mean, just the jerky movements that she was doing. I almost started doing them, then I started making noise in my chair, and I was like, wait, fuck. Um, um, but she really just did so amazing here, and considering La Grande Dame and what she kind of stated were her rules that she was going to abide by going throughout the season, I believe that La Grande Dame would have eliminated Gothi here, because looking at episode 1, Arantxa was safe and Gothi was in the bottom 2. And she always said that she would go by track record and what she felt was most fair. And so, if we're going by her word, I think Gothi gets eliminated here. That just seems like what would happen. So sadly, Gothi here is going to be eliminated. She isn't going to get her redemption as she does in the way it happens on how UK versus the World Season 2 actually happened. And that I do think is the biggest kind of pitfall with this way that I'm judging it, is that Gothi kind of gets no storyline here, and it's sad, and I wish that she got more. But if we're judging it how I would judge it, that's how I judge it. So I can't. I would feel dishonest, like shifting it around, you know. So sadly, Gothi is going to leave here, and we're going to move on to episode 3. In episode 3, we had ourselves the commercial challenge where they had to essentially advertise Drag Race World, which I think this was a bad. Well, okay. I think this challenge could have been really good. It wasn't, but I think it could have been good. So they're supposed to advertise these like immersive experiences, but like I think phrasing it as an immersive experience kind of downplays and just like messes up the way that they should go about this and what would be a more exciting way to do this. You should phrase it as like introducing Drag Race World, and you should make it, you know, say like, oh, it's like a theme park. Hint, hint, not Disney World, not at all. But yeah, they should have phrased it more as like a theme park, like Drag Race World, an immersive theme park where you can participate in RuPaul's Drag Race and get to know all the stuff, and then they each have to do a commercial on that. I think that would have been a better way to phrase this, because with the way that it was done with these like immersive experiences, so to say, it just kind of makes it like a pseudo branding challenge that just isn't formatted well, in my opinion. But that's enough critiquing the challenge in that way that it literally didn't happen in. And the way the challenge did happen, originally we had Gothi Kendall here, where we don't. Gothi Kendall was high for this challenge. So since she is not here anymore, we have to put somebody in the high placement. And I think the most fitting person for that would be Hannah Conda. Hannah, I think a lot of people think that Hannah should have been high for this episode, just originally as it was. And I agree. I think Hannah was super funny in her group here. And I mean, looking at all of the groups, I feel like the way that it kind of makes most sense to be judged, not like formally, but is we have our groups. Here we do not have Gothi Kendall, so Arantxa is going to be put in the group with Teresa and Scarlett, which like just makes sense. She's with Teresa and everything. It makes sense, and it was like random anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then team 2 is Kata, Marina, and Tia. And team 3 was Hannah, Jonbers, and La Grande Dame. I kind of think it makes the most sense just with the way that they actually ended up doing in the challenge. And the fact that they're in teams is that one person from each team is in the top, one person from each team is safe, and one person from each team is in the bottom. That just kind of makes sense to me overall. How would Arantxa do in this challenge? I think badly. I don't think she would be in the bottom 2, but I think if Arantxa was in this challenge. So her name is Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha. Castilla-La Mancha is an area of Spain. So she could very easily just have her thing being explaining Castilla-La Mancha. However, Arantxa herself is not from Castilla-La Mancha. So the options are she either like advertises Castilla-La Mancha, I feel like, or it's like a joke of her poorly explaining Castilla-La Mancha or explaining where she's actually from. And otherwise, I just don't think it lands well. I just don't see a universe where it lands well, sadly, for Arantxa. So that's why I kind of split them up as like one person from each group is in the top, one's in the safe, and one's in the bottom, because that's how I really feel it would happen, and I feel like that's kind of a pretty fair way to do it. Because I believe Arantxa should be in the bottom, that does take Le Grand Dame out of the bottom. And also, I don't think Le Grand Dame should have been in the bottom anyway. Le Grand Dame did fine in this challenge. I thought her performance was actually kind of funny, and I thought it was stupid. And I thought that even with like the base judging of the episode, like I don't know if a low placement was fully deserved for her. I think if it had to go to anybody, it'd probably go to her, but like I really don't. I think putting her in a low placement, it sends a message that she did bad, and I don't think she did bad. I feel like I've been going about this episode, specifically this episode 3, in a very scatterbrained way, and that's because that's how this episode felt, and there's just too much shit to deal with regarding it. But the top two and the bottom two are staying the same. I think that's obvious to me and to everybody. Scarlett and Tia did amazing. Kata and John Burrs were the worst two of the week. So Scarlett and Tia are going to be the top two of the week, and they're going to be lip syncing to Future Starts Now by Kim Petras. And Scarlett does win this lip sync, I think, pretty fairly. And Scarlett does end up sending home John Burrs originally, so that is going to stay the same here. Sad for John Burrs, isn't going to make it further in the competition, but we're going to move on to episode 4. In episode 4, we had ourselves the Snatch game, and here we have Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha, where we originally had Gothy Kendall. Now, I was not able to find readily who Arantxa would have done for Snatch game. If I do find who she would have done, I will put it up on the screen right now. But considering the fact that Arantxa was in the bottom 2 for her Snatch game originally and did go home, I don't think she would do particularly well here. I do think there's a chance she could escape the bottom. I absolutely think so. Because Arantxa didn't do a terrible job in her first Snatch game. She just did a job on her first Snatch game, you know? It's one of the Snatch games where on, like, season 15 of Drag Race, where there was 14 people doing Snatch game, I think Arantxa could have been safe. Like, she would have been a low safe, but she would have been safe. With the original 8 people on her season, she was clearly the bottom 2. And I think with 8 people on this season, I think that odds are most likely she would be in the bottom 2 here. Essentially just replacing Gothy here in the bottom 2 for the Snatch game. Every other placement I did keep the same, though I do think it was judged pretty fairly. I've seen a lot of people say that Scarlett and Hannah should be the top 2 of this challenge instead of Tia. But I disagree. I thought Tia was super funny. Tia was my second favorite of the night by a country mile. I thought she did better than Scarlett here. And I've seen, there's been so much, like, weird misplaced hate for Tia this season that just makes no fucking sense to me. I think what happened is that because of spoilers and stuff, which as the season went on, and the way that people were talking about the season and talking about Tia and the favoritism, it was very clear to me that Tia was going to be in the top 2. Like, it was unavoidable on fucking Twitter and stuff. And people are just complaining about this so-called favoritism for Tia the whole season. And I feel like there's very little favoritism for Tia this entire season. There's only one placement that Tia has that I disagree upon, and it's not even that big of a disagree. And we'll get to the finale later and how that shook out, and potential favoritism there. But what people can't seem to get through their stupid little heads is that Tia didn't choose. If Tia is being favored, let's make that clear. If someone is being favored on Drag Race, they didn't choose that. They're not, like, nobody's, like, slipping RuPaul, like, a 20 and is like, hey, put me as high this week instead of safe. Like, that's not how that fucking works. Like, if RuPaul's obsessed with somebody, take that up with Ru. It's so dumb to be like, how dare you be favored on this season of Drag Race? Like, get over yourself. Like, yes, I can understand it's annoying when you feel that somebody should have had a different placement and should have won or not gone home, but they did, and you feel that it was because somebody else was favored in the challenge. I can understand that being frustrating. There are points that has happened where I was frustrated by that. But my first reaction wasn't to tell off the queen that was favored online. Are you kidding? No. That's so dumb. You're dumb if you do that. You're dumb, dumb, dumb. I can't. I needed to get that off my chest at some point in this video, and this feels like the right time to do it. Because people take themselves way too seriously, and take this way too seriously. It's a drag competition show, motherfuckers. Like, yes, it's like competition, and like the sport of it is fun and fascinating, but like you can't take it so fucking seriously. Just calm down. Tia and Hannah are the top two of the episode. They are going to be lip syncing to Crying at the Discotheque by Alcazar. I do think Tia wins the lip sync, personally, for me. I could understand an argument for Hannah winning the lip sync, but I think Tia had just had better gags. And, you know, really, you know, she camps it up and she does comedy most of the time in her lip syncs. And I feel like this was a lip sync where she really committed to the comedy and had a lot of gags that worked really well. So I do think Tia won this lip sync. And originally she did choose to keep Gothi over Keita and send home Keita. Now with this change with Arantxa, I do think that she would still choose to get rid of Keita. Because the reasoning for keeping Gothi was that she felt that she was, you know, providing guidance to Gothi, and that Gothi could succeed, and that she wanted to see Gothi succeed here in this competition, and wanted to afford her the opportunity and take out a big threat in Keita at the same time. I do think she sees a similar situation here in Arantxa. I do think that. I think, while it is a different scenario because Gothi is not from the UK and she has less connection to Arantxa, I do think Arantxa comes into the season in a similar place as Gothi, where they both went home very early on their season. So the two people in the season to go home within the first few episodes on their only season of Drag Race that they've been on. So for them to be here and, you know, be on this versus the world stage here, I feel like Arantxa, in this way that I've judged the season, kind of fills a similar role as Gothi did, as like the person who, in the terms of challenge performance, seems to be out of their depth, but is learning about themselves and is trying their best. And I do still think odds are that Tia would afford Arantxa that opportunity. Would it happen 100%? I don't know. But that is my gut feeling, and I'm going with my gut feeling. So sadly, Keita Minaj is eliminated here, which is so depressing because I love Keita Minaj. Keita Minaj was like my winner pick going into the season. I was like, it's gotta be Keita. It's gotta be Keita. And then she just did poorly in 2 challenges in a row and got sent home, and that's just how the cards fell. And you can't really. I wish I could cry Riggory, but I can't. I can't at all. So, yeah, that's going to be it for this, and we're going to move on to episode 5. In episode 5, we had ourselves the Rusical, I guess, girl group challenge pseudo situation. 7, inspired by 6. This challenge I thought was interesting. I think, with the way that the performances were in this challenge, I was kind of conflicted on how to do the placements here, because we have 7 people, and on a regular Final 7, on an All-Star season with the top 2 format, God, that's a mouthful. The way that I would usually have it judged is there be a win, a top 2, a high, a safe, a low, a bottom 2, and an elim placement. One of each. I decided not to do that, because the way that the performances were in this episode, I was really conflicted on who would be high, who would be low. I really don't know. I honestly have no clue. I can't tell you. I have not a damn clue. Looking at the way this episode was originally, the way that I thought it would be judged when Gothi was here instead of Arantxa, after the performances were done, I thought, okay, I think Marina and Hannah are the top 2, and Choriza and Gothi are the bottom 2. And I got 3 out of the 4 correct. Marina was in the top 2, Choriza and Gothi were in the bottom 2. Tia was in the top 2 instead of Hannah. I don't think Tia did a bad job, personally. I honestly don't know where I would rank Tia amongst the safes, but she was very clearly not the bottom to me. But she also was clearly, to me, not in the top. I do feel like Marina and Hannah did the best in this challenge. I feel like Marina had the best performance and the best lyrics and stage presence of the challenge. And I think Hannah's performance was in part helped by the, section that she was given, the kind of like goofy, campy section that really fits her character. But I feel like she played into that super well. I feel like she played into the role she had super, super, super well. And when looking at the performances, Marina and Hannah's were the two that really stood out to me. But I rewatched the performance like 5 times in a row, just being like, okay, who's high, who's safe, who's low? Who's high, who's safe, who's low? And I frankly couldn't decide, so I just made them all safe. I didn't know what else to do. I feel like they should just all be safe. And then to talk about Arantxa for a minute. I think sadly Arantxa wouldn't do particularly well in this challenge. She was in the bottom 2 for her girl groups challenge on her season, so I feel like odds are she wouldn't. I don't think she'd be in the top. I don't think she'd be safe. I just think she'd be in the bottom 2, sadly, and that would be with Theresa May. And we do end up getting this similar bottom 2 situation between the 2 friends of Theresa and Arantxa, which was not on purpose, but just kind of ended up happening through this. But I do think that is the way that it would happen for me. So the top 2 of Marina Summers and Hannah Conda are going to be lip-syncing to Fucking Wizardry by Self-Esteem. Originally, Tia was in this lip sync, but I don't think Hannah would win against Marina here either. I feel like Marina still wins, even with Hannah here. I do think Hannah would do a better job than Tia personally, but I still think, again, Marina would win, and she originally chose to send home Gothi. And I feel like with Arantxa basically taking up the same spot that Gothi did, I feel like Marina most likely chooses to get rid of Arantxa here instead. And in this bottom 2, when it happened originally between Theresa and Arantxa, Arantxa did go home. Now, that wasn't Marina's choice that time at all, but I do feel like I feel like just Theresa versus Arantxa bottom 2, who's going to go home, who's going to stay. I feel like odds are in most situations, Theresa's going to stay, Arantxa's going to go. So that is why Arantxa sadly is going to go home here, but making it a lot further than she did originally, so congrats to her. And we're going to move on to episode 6. Now here is the episode I feel like mainly where people are like, Tia was favored, she did terrible in the challenge. I don't think she did that bad. The challenge was Strictly Come Prancing, where they are put up in pairs and they have to do these dance numbers on the main stage with their partner. Since we have the same 6 queens as we did originally, the pairs are going to stay the same, so it's going to be Marina Summers and Hannah Conda, Tia Kofi and La Grande Dame, and Scarlet Envy and Theresa May. Now, I think it was very obvious, it's obvious to everyone that Marina and Hannah did do the best in this challenge. They did a great job here, no complaints with that. People seem to think that Tia should have been in the bottom for this challenge, and I just don't see it. When I was watching the episode originally, I was like, okay, Marina and Hannah did the best, then Tia and La Grande Dame, and Scarlet and Theresa. That's what I genuinely believed, and that's what I still believe. I think that they should be safe. I think both La Grande Dame and Tia should be safe. I felt like they executed the moves better. I felt like there were more awkward moments with Scarlet and Theresa's for me. And I feel like just purely looking at the performances, if I had to choose one to watch again, I'm choosing Tia and La Grande Dame. I am. And I feel like if we're purely looking at, like, if we're splitting up the pairs, I might put Tia in the bottom 2. Like, if we're just judging everybody individually, like, what would it change then? There's a chance that I put Tia in the bottom 2, but there's a chance I don't. But also, it's not in individuals, it's in pairs. This is a pairs challenge. I feel like the only fair way to judge it is in pairs. If you're going to judge the top 2 and be like, wow, they did the best, the winning pair is the top 2, and then judge the rest of them individually, that doesn't feel very fair to me. I feel like you gotta do it one way or the other. And I feel like judging it in pairs is the fairest way to do it. So that's the way I'm going to do it. And if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. But the top 2 of Marina Summers and Hannah Conda are going to lip sync to Release Me by Agnes, which this is a song that I loved and then forgot existed. And then when I heard it start on the episode, I was like, oh shit. Like I was like, no, release me. Oh my god. Like the feeling took over me. And I was so excited for it. It was I loved this lip sync, especially from Marina Summers. Did so amazing here. It was the very clear winner to me. And originally between Teresa and Scarlett, she chose Teresa's lipstick, so that is going to stay the same here. Sadly, Teresa is going to go, and we're going to move on to episode 7. In episode 7, we had the wedding roast challenge, and I loved this episode of Drag Race. This is like maybe my favorite episode of Drag Race of the year, period. I love a roast challenge. I feel like I mentioned that before. I love a Drag Race roast. I like the performances, especially from Hannah and Tia, were so good. I loved the lip sync. I loved the runway. I love Catherine Ryan so much. This was an amazing episode of Drag Race. One of my favorites of the year so far. Easy peasy. I feel like this was judged pretty fairly originally. The way that they did it is that they had, if you're not in the top, you're in the bottom. So there was a top 2 and a bottom 3. That's not how I do Final Fives on top 2 All-Star seasons. I do a top 2, a bottom 2, and 1 safe. And I decided to keep that intact here because I do think looking at those who originally declared the bottom 3, those being Marina, La Grande Dame, and Scarlett, I think Marina did the best. I don't think there's any question of that in my brain. If there was like a question about it, being like, who did the best? Was it Marina? Was it La Grande Dame? Was it Scarlett? I probably just would have put them all in the bottom. But there was no question. Marina was my third favorite of this challenge. So she's going to be safe, and she's not going to even have the chance to be eliminated here. Which does cut some of the tension, obviously, of like, oh my god, is Marina going to be chopped right before the finale? But I don't care. I feel like she deserves it, so I don't care that the tension is cut. The top 2 of Hannah Conda and Tia Coffee are going to lip sync to Euphoria by Loreen, and Hannah murders this lip sync. Oh my god, I loved this performance from Hannah. It was everything that I wanted and needed. I love it. The fucking like fans that she had, just the way that they float around, and Hannah is so attractive in black hair. I need more Hannah Conta in black hair out, like now, stat. I need an IV. I just need it so bad. She looks so beautiful, so fucking stunning. And originally, between the bottom 3, Hannah did choose Scarlett's lipstick. And with the bottom 2 here, I don't see why that changes. I feel like she still chooses Scarlett because it's what she chose last time, and it just feels fairest to her going into this finale. So that's what's going to happen. She's going to choose Scarlett's lipstick, and we're going to move on to the finale. Before I move to the next screen, I want to tell everybody that I agonized over the decision I made for literally like an hour. Like, I finished my graphics and everything. I made my decision and then just sat at it. I just kept it in the back of my head, stewing for like an hour of like, is this what I'm doing? Is this what I'm putting in the video? Is this how I'm finally judging it? And my conclusion is yes. And I'm ready to defend my decision. So Hannah Conda's winning this season. Now let's get into it. So we have the lip sync for the crown here. And so the way that this ends up going down is because the way that the wheel spin happened originally stays intact with the same top 4. Marina has the same amount of wins. There's no reason to not believe that Marina also gets picked in this timeline to choose who she wants to go against. She still chooses Hannah. Hannah chooses box number 2 and pulls, honestly, one of the best songs of all time, I'm Out of Love by Anastasia. Oh my god, I love that song so much. It's an amazing song. I'll pull up a screenshot if I can find it. But I'm Out of Love was one of my top and most listened to songs of 2022, and I believe also 2023 on Spotify. If I can find a screenshot proving that, I'll put it in here. But trust me, I fucking love that song so much. But looking at the lip sync, I think Hannah won. Now, I do have to say the editing of the lip sync very obviously was trying to downplay Marina and what she was doing. I fully see that. I fully see that. I could tell, I could see the stunt they were pulling with the editing from a mile away. I was like, they aren't showing Marina. Hannah's winning, they aren't showing Marina. But after watching it a couple more times, and also kind of what I felt in the corner of my heart the first time, Hannah was doing better, man. She was doing better. I mean, the gag immediately to put on the glasses and the karaoke mic and start going at it. I mean, this is a karaoke song. This is I'm Out of Love is a song that people fucking belt at karaoke till their fucking heart's about to fucking explode. It's such a good song to fucking just sing. And Hannah Conda making that choice and like doing this kind of like performance version of it, like, you know, acting like she's like singing it, was so smart. And the way that she was, just literally her mouth movements, it looked like it was coming out of her mouth. It was ridiculous. And I feel like she fit the vibe of the song better. This is a kind of walk around and, you know, and kind of like sing your heart out song. And the way that she was mimicking that was the exact way that I would want to see someone do this song, just as a lip sync. And so, while it deeply pains me to say that, in a way, because I really wanted Marina Summers to win this season, after Kata Minaj went home, I was like, okay, Marina's my number one pick now. Even though I really deeply wanted to see Marina win this season, I would deep in my soul feel so unjust if I was like, yeah, Marina won, and then just like, I just didn't say how I really feel about it. It's how I feel about it. I feel like Hannah did better. And considering that this is a first round lip sync, you can't just be like, oh well, it's the final lip sync. Marina did better during the season. Congrats, Marina! Like, I think Hannah did better. I think Hannah did better. And so she's moving on, and I feel bad about it in a way, but I also feel right about it. So I'm sticking with my decision, obviously, but those are all the emotions going on in my brain right now. The second lip sync, a bit more simple, between Tia Kofi and Le Grand Dame to Boogie Tonight by Booty Love. I do think Tia won this lip sync. Again, I do think that the editing of the lip sync was trying to make and show Tia more than it was trying to show Le Grand Dame, which is shady and I don't like it. I wish they would show them similar amounts. But I do think Tia did a better job in this lip sync. I do. I feel like Le Grand Dame spent a bit too much time in the back of the lip sync, where Tia spent a lot of her time at the front of the stage and doing her gags up at the front and had a lot of props and came very prepared for it. And I feel like looking at the gags, the gag that I was gagged the most by was the breakaway bottles that Tia had. I was actually like, oh, are those breakaways? And then she did it, and I was like, oh yeah, they're breakaway bottles. I was excited for it. That is what got me jazzed. That was the part that really got me the most jazzed about the whole lip sync. And so I feel like Tia did better, personally, for me, than Le Grand Dame. I enjoyed her lip sync style more in the way that she went about it. So the top two is going to stay the same between Hannah Conda and Tia Kofi. The lip sync song is Your Disco Needs You by Kylie Minogue. And while I have always loved Hannah Conda, and even, you know, before the season, in my preseason thoughts and feelings video of the cast, which you can watch if you'd like, I put Hannah in the top 4 of the season, and I was like, Hannah's gonna do really well, and I would be great. I would be excited if Hannah won. Looking at this, and this final lip sync, when it started, I was like, Hannah's gonna win Drag Race. I really thought that. I really was like, Hannah's killing it. Hannah's gonna win. And I was really excited for it. And not to say I'm disappointed that Tia won. I still think Tia did an amazing job on this season. And if you're going by the way that the track records were originally, Tia had a better track record. So, you know, if you're just basing it off of that, Tia can win, and it's perfectly fine, I feel like, for me. And I completely am cool with the decision. But when I was watching the final lip sync, I was like, oh, Hannah's everything right now. She's winning this for me. And that's why Hannah Conda's gonna win the season. Hannah Conda is my winner of RuPaul's Drag Race UK versus the World Season 2, and I don't feel that bad about it. I really don't. And I feel like Hannah winning is actually very interesting for the storyline purposes of this season, because Hannah starts off, you know, with this little like safe low spot placement here at the very beginning of the season, and then she gets a high placement in episode 3, and then the final 4 episodes of the season she's in the top 2. But the first 3 episodes she can't get the lip sync win, and then finally at the final 5 she gets a lip sync win, and then in the finale wins the 2 lip syncs she needs to win the crown. And I feel like that kind of growth arc of somebody who came in as a strong competitor but wasn't showing it initially, killing the back half of the season, getting that golden badge at the final opportunity, being like the last person to kind of have their like foot in the door, or like I guess horse in the race, I mean to say, in terms of like winning the crown, and then genuinely winning the 2 lip syncs that she needs to, and murdering them in different ways to get the fucking crown and get the win, I feel like would be so satisfying to watch. And I feel like in the back half of the season, and also kind of just like generally throughout the season, in my opinion, Hannah was like the main character in a way. We kind of see the way that the lenses are, I feel like, for everybody this season, especially our final 4. It's kind of presented in a way that like Marina's like the final boss. Marina's like the opponent that everybody wants to beat. She's not like the main character. She's like the final battle in a way. And then we have Tia and Le Grand Dame, who each fill at different times this like confessional darling, comic relief, strong competitor, spot where they're funny in their confessionals and they have their moments throughout the season, but they aren't shown as like, you know, as like the all-around queen that I feel like Hannah is shown as. I feel like Hannah is really shown from beginning to end as like your average girl out there doing her best in a way. That sounds so weird, but that's the way that I feel like it's presented. I feel like Hannah's just shown as like, yeah, she's a drag queen and she's gonna rise to the ranks and she's gonna win the whole damn crown. And I feel like I should have scripted the words that I was gonna say there instead of just saying them off the cuff and just having a vague idea of what I wanted to say. But, I can't change that now, so we're gonna move on to the track records. Now, I'm not sure of the way I actually should have done this, because while I do think top 2s count as wins, I do decide to count top 2s as 4.5 points for this judging instead of the 5. So Hanaconda actually does have the most wins going into this finale on this season. Which, is, like a last second, like, oop, Hanaconda, usurps Marina Summers, and, has 4 here at the end, whereas Tia has 3, Marina has 3, and Le Grand Dame has 2. But yep, these are the track records of the season. Marina does have a track record of 4 here, which is crazy. And if Hanaconda did have her top 2s all as, like, wins, as, like, the 5 points kind of situation, which they maybe should be. I honestly kind of, at points, have flopped back and forth and forgotten the ways that I have done it in other, videos and stuff, and the other ways I've done it in different judging, like just for myself. So this might have to be changed, and there are other ones that, I might have to change, depending on the way that I did previous ones. But, regardless of me being a dumb idiot, if Hanaconda's top 2s were all 5 points, she would also have a PPE score of 4. So good for her and good for Marina here. But that is going to be the end of this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. Leave your thoughts, feelings, and opinions down below. As always, I will leave my Twitter linked down below if you want to go follow me on there. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, take care. Bye-bye.